Childhood trauma that still haunts me. I've never really shared this story in full detail before, but after scrolling through a lot of posts on Reddit about childhood trauma, I feel like maybe it's time to put mine out there. Maybe someone will relate. Maybe someone will think I'm overreacting. But this is the truth. My childhood, especially my school years, left scars on me that I'm still trying to heal as an adult. It didn't start with one single incident. It was more like a series of moments, small cuts that kept piling up until I realized years later that I was bleeding inside. The early years. When I was in elementary school, I was the quiet kid. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I was always terrified of saying the wrong thing. My family wasn't poor, but we were definitely lower middle class, and in the area I grew up, that meant you stood out. My backpack wasn't the newest. My clothes were hand-me-downs, and my lunch was usually just something simple my mom could throw together before work. Kids notice those things. Kids are cruel about those things. I remember sitting at lunch in first grade, and one kid pointing at my peanut butter sandwich and saying, "EW, that looks gross." Everyone laughed. I was 6 years old. I didn't understand why that hurt so much, but I remember pushing the sandwich away and pretending I wasn't hungry. That was the first time I felt ashamed of who I was. The teachers weren't much better. You'd think adults would step in, right? But some of the teachers were part of the problem. In third grade, I had a teacher who used sarcasm as her main teaching tool. If you got an answer wrong, she wouldn't just correct you. She'd make a joke out of it. One time, I raised my hand, nervous but excited because I actually thought I knew the answer to a math problem. I got it wrong. She smirked, looked at the class, and said, "Well, at least he tried." Everyone laughed. It sounds small, but that day I decided I wouldn't raise my hand anymore. Not in her class, not in any class. I became invisible. And the thing is, teachers praise the loud, confident kids, the ones who raised their hands all the time. They got encouragement, attention, and extra help. I got silence. To this day, I struggle to speak up in work meetings because my brain instantly replays that third grade humiliation. Friends that weren't really friends. Middle school was worse. If elementary school was about being laughed at, middle school was about betrayal. I had a best friend named Kyle. We hung out after school, played video games, and shared secrets. At least I thought we did. One day, I found out that he had been repeating everything I told him to a group of kids who bullied me. Personal stuff, too. Like how my dad had left and wasn't really in the picture. Suddenly the whole class knew. Suddenly, I wasn't just the quiet kid. I was the kid whose dad abandoned him. The bullying got worse. Notes in my locker. Whispering when I walked by. One time someone slipped a paper into my backpack that just said, "No wonder your dad left." I cried when I got home, but I never told my mom. She was already working so hard to keep things together. I didn't want to add more stress. So I bottled it up. That's what school taught me, not math, not history. It taught me how to bottle up pain until it eats you alive. The breaking point. By the time I hit high school, I was already carrying years of humiliation and loneliness. But there was one incident that I can honestly say broke me. In sophomore year, we had to give a presentation in English class. I stayed up all night working on mine. I was terrified, but I thought maybe if I did well, people would finally respect me. I got up there, hands shaking, voice trembling. I made it about 2 minutes in before someone in the back coughed "loser" under their breath. The class laughed. My throat closed up. I couldn't breathe. I froze completely, standing there like a statue while everyone stared. The teacher didn't tell them to stop. She just said, "Okay, maybe you should sit down." And that was it. My big chance, my one desperate attempt to be seen as something other than a joke, ended with me sitting down while everyone laughed. I went to the bathroom afterward and cried so hard I felt sick. That was the day I decided school wasn't a place for me to succeed. It was a place to survive until I could escape. The long-term damage. People think bullying is just kids being kids. That's what adults always said when I tried to hint at how bad it was. It builds character, they'd say. Or, one day you'll laugh about this. I'm not laughing. What it built in me wasn't character, it was anxiety. It was trust issues. It was the ability to plaster on a fake smile while dying inside. Even now, as an adult, I can trace so many of my struggles back to school. I have trouble trusting friends because I'm afraid they'll betray me like Kyle did. I struggle with authority figures because teachers use their power to humiliate me. I have constant imposter syndrome at work because I was trained to believe that if I speak up, I'll be laughed at. Therapy has helped, but healing from years of emotional damage is slow. Sometimes I wonder what kind of person I could have been if I hadn't spent my entire childhood being crushed down by people who were supposed to lift me up. One moment that still haunts me. Out of everything, there's one memory that plays on a loop in my head. It was in senior year. I was walking down the hall when I overheard two classmates talking about colleges. One of them said, "Well, at least we don't have to compete with him. He's not going anywhere." They both laughed. They didn't even know I was behind them. That sentence, "he's not going anywhere," branded itself into my brain. For years afterward, whenever I failed at something, I'd hear it in my head. Even now, when I doubt myself, that's the voice I hear. Why I'm sharing this? I guess I'm sharing this because so many people underestimate the impact school can have. They think childhood trauma has to be something big, dramatic, like violence or tragedy. But sometimes it's death by 1,000 cuts. A laugh here, a whisper there, a teacher's sarcastic remark, a friend's betrayal. It adds up. It changes you. It leaves scars that no one else can see. And if you're a parent, a teacher, or even just someone who interacts with kids, please, please remember this. The things you say and do matter. Kids don't forget. Sometimes the smallest cruelty becomes the loudest voice in their head for the rest of their life. Where I am now. I'm not going to end this on a hopeless note. I'm trying. I've started therapy, and for the first time, I'm actually unpacking all those years of bottled up pain. It's messy, it's hard, but it's worth it. I've also found a small circle of friends as an adult who actually listen and support me, something I never had growing up. I'm learning to speak up in meetings. I still shake, my voice still trembles, but I do it anyway. Because the only way to silence those old voices is to create new ones. And if anyone reading this is going through something similar, please know you're not alone. Your pain is real. Your trauma is valid. And you can heal, even if it takes years. Final thoughts. Sometimes I think about that little kid with the peanut butter sandwich, the one who pushed his food away because someone laughed at him. I want to go back and sit with him. I want to tell him he's